I think also there's something else too, that the way that the Russians and the Chinese are approaching this whole situation, I think that a number of statisticians and econometricians must have been looking at the data of the European and American economies and realized that the days of the dollar are numbered. The days of the dollar of the Western economies are numbered. They're way over indebted, and now with this shock of having cut them, literally cut their nose to spite their face. With the sanctions, right, which blew up insofar as their energy resources, they are colossally fucked. And I think that part of the calculation of the Eurasian alliance, if you want to call it that, is that they're thinking, take it slow. There's no need to rush. Not rush in Ukraine, not rush in Taiwan, and let them fall of their own weight. I think that we would agree that Macron's flight to Beijing over Ukraine and Ursula going as well, those are moves of desperation and weakness. I mean, there's no question about that. And so I think that basically the Eurasian alliance is saying, just wait them out. They'll just fall, and once they fall,
even Taiwan,
that there'll be.
Like, I might be wrong about this, and I hope I'm right, because I don't want to see an invasion of Taiwan. I think that would be disastrous for everybody, right? But I can see them just waiting it out, because the Kuomintang, which is like historically the ideological opponent of the CCP, is now like they're the ones gunning for unification with China, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like half the country, and so they're obviously not in America's pocket. The other team is, but they're saying let's wait it out. Let's talk peace. Let's talk peace. And 5-10 years, maybe even less than that, maybe 2 years down the line, with the way that the U.S. economy is going, with the way that all these other countries, like you look at Malaysia, look at Indonesia, they're all teaming up with Russia and China for their, and India as well, right? Teaming up with like the local trade and de-dollarization. Taiwan might be like, you know what, let's join them. It makes more sense. At the end of the day, I mean, America's not going to carry us anymore. We can't depend on them.
I mean, that's what the Democratic. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to mention, you heard about Robert Burns, the former CIA head, flying out to Saudi Arabia and reading them the Riot Act. How could you have peace with Iran? Basically, he went and chewed them out over that shit. And now, on top of that, in Yemen, all of a sudden, somebody pulled out of Yemen, not the Saudis. The UAE? No, I don't know if the UAE is. I have no idea about that particular conflict, to tell you the truth. All I know is it's fucking horrifying, and even peace is breaking out there. I mean, the Americans are so frustrated that peace is breaking out in the Middle East.
Syria too. Everybody's welcoming them back in, right? Saudi Arabia.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Rescue Michigan live stream. Starting on kind of a sad note today for those who, well, you probably saw from the thumbnail or the description of the video. Besides the content itself, what was interesting about that clip is that guy in the top left, Gonzalo Lira, has been arrested by the authorities in Ukraine. And his charge is distributing Russian propaganda. Gonzalo Lira is a dual citizen, Chilean and American. He's been living in Kharkov for the past, more than the past year, I think. So he's been seeing the war firsthand, and he's been on YouTube and Twitter and talking about it for the past year. He was actually arrested for, I think, about a week last year. He called that his, I forget what he called it. It was like his dark week or something, when he was just AWOL. And as it turned out, is he was imprisoned by the government of Ukraine for some reason or another, and eventually he did get released. But now he has once again been arrested. And in this age of insanity, it's easy to miss the significance of this, that a foreign government that takes tens of billions of dollars from this country has the audacity to arrest an American citizen. And the charge, of course, is nothing more than making observations. I mean, Gonzalo Lira he's a pundit. He's not a journalist. He wasn't, telling the world about Ukraine's secret war plans or anything like that. He had no privileged information. He wasn't talking about anything like that. In fact, I'll pull up his Twitter feed just so you can see what the last few things he posted was. First off, there is his pinned tweet, which was pinned from literally days before he was arrested by Ukraine. And that was this. He says, "The truth about the Zelensky regime, Google these names: Vladimir Struk, Denis Kiryev, Mikhail and Alexander Koronovich, Nestor, I don't know how to pronounce all these names, but you know what this is about. This is a list of political dissidents who were captured or killed by Ukraine. And then he says at the bottom, once again, if you haven't heard from me in 12 hours or more, put my name on this list. And now he is once again in custody. Interestingly, the last thing that he posted on his Twitter page was this retweet from a guy, Lee Stranahan, saying, do you agree with this statement? Anthony Blinken falsely accused Russia of being the true story of Hunter Biden's laptop. For that reason, he cannot possibly negotiate with Russia and should recuse himself, i.e. resign as Secretary of State. And his followers largely totally agree with that. And then the last thing he posted himself on Twitter before being arrested was the opinion that people 200 years from now will regard as barbaric the practice of listening to fools claim that eating meat is bad, climate change is real, and children should be medically transitioned. The last especially we put in the same category as lobotomies and human sacrifice. So these are the sort of opinions that are apparently criminal in Ukraine, which for those who have watched have seen him destroy political freedom in the country, destroy press freedom in the country, destroy religious freedom in the country, and now are even arresting Americans. So on that note, hey, how you guys all doing? Hey, Patty, how's things going?
Great.
Yeah, it's been another week of insanity in Lansing and Washington, and boy, are things going crazy in Ukraine. So we got to probably talk about for that a little bit because, wow, a whole lot's happened in this past week. First there was the attempted assassination of Putin, which the media
was that this week still? I'm so confused.
That was earlier this week. That's how fast things have been happening. Yeah. Well, actually no, because there was another attempted assassination.
I think a week or two earlier. I don't even know.
Yeah, there was one a few weeks ago, and then there was but the one that was this week was the one where some UAV was shot down, but the debris hit the Kremlin and caused a fire, a little bit of an explosion. It didn't really damage the building, but hey, Curtis Michael says Patriot Approved is watching. Hey, hello, yeah. Patriot Approved. So that was the first thing, and amazingly, the media again starts saying, yeah, this has all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. All the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. Where have I heard that one before? It's a tough one. All the hallmarks of. Oh, that's right. That was the thing that the media said about Hunter Biden's laptop.
They did. They said it was from Hallmark.
Oh no, it was a hallmark of. It had all the hallmarks.
I'm just kidding. I know. Okay. Did it have the gold crown sticker on the back?
Well, that's an interesting question because it's funny. They always say this, and they never offer any evidence, of course, but they always say this. All of the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. They never say, such as what? Such as what? What is all the hallmarks of a Russian false flag operation? What's all the hallmarks of that? What exactly makes that they know it's a Russian hallmark? Because the thing that I noticed that the media that was also saying about the same thing was, this is terribly humiliating for Putin. This is so bad. The Russian air defense let a UAV hit the Kremlin. That is a huge humiliation for Putin. So apparently, it is a false flag campaign to humiliate themselves, which is one of those hallmarks of a disinformation campaign is when the party humiliates themselves. That's what they do. They intentionally set out to humiliate themselves. That makes perfect total sense, doesn't it? Of course, the other theory is just Ukraine tried to assassinate Putin because they're running out of other ideas. That would be like what you would normally think. Well, I mean, it's.
Oh man.
I mean, what else is there? The other big stories this week were, the Ukrainians are saying we are not quite ready for this counteroffensive, and the U.S. is saying, oh yeah, you are. Oh yeah, no, now's the time. No more delays. We saw in the leaked Pentagon documents, it's going to be late April, early May at the latest. Now Ukraine's saying, oh, there's. The weather's really bad. Can we wait another week? And the U.S. is like, no, now's the time. And they're like, well, but we don't have enough manpower or munitions or anything. And it's probably not going to go well, but I think we're going to find out really, really soon because that offensive is happening come hell or high water, apparently. So
I don't know. I haven't really been following this week for Ukraine. So I apologize in advance.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that is obviously the hallmark of a Russian false flag attempt is that right after the attempted assassination, Vladimir Zelensky ran to Europe, got the heck out of Ukraine as fast as he possibly could.
I'm surprised he wasn't at the Met Gala.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's having a real hard time doing public appearances this past week because of the Writers Guild strike.
Because he doesn't want to write for him. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's truly horrible what's going on. And the frightening thing too is what's going to happen next, because the other thing that's happening literally as we speak is the Bakhmut, the siege of Bakhmut is coming to an end. And that's the other thing that happened was there was this spurg out video by the guy that runs the Wagner organization, which has been doing like all of the fighting in Bakhmut, and he put out this like obscene video where he's calling these other Russian generals corrupt, and he's got what appear to be Ukrainian soldiers' bodies in the background and pointing them and says, "You need to send us more ammunition," and da 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 da. And he's just going absolutely nuts. And then like the next day, he's like, "Oh, we got it all worked out. We're getting everything that we need. We're all fine." It's like, that's weird. But what some people were suggesting is that they're trying to get the Ukrainians to take their counteroffensive back towards Bakhmut, where the Russians are already they've already fortified everything, trying to get them to do multiple things at once. So I don't know if that's going to work. I saw some Ukrainians saying, "Yeah, this is obviously a feint," but that was a big story in the media too. Was this guy, I should say, he's not the commander of the Wagner group, but he's like the founder of the Wagner organization. He's not a military commander himself, but he's been in Bakhmut for like months and months and months with the soldiers all the time. So very, very strange. But yeah, things are about to go crazy out there. The other thing that's happening too is May 9th is Victory Day in Russia, which is when it's their memorial for winning World War II and defeating the Nazis. And that's a big deal in Russia because, 27 million Russians fought in that war and lost their lives. So they still remember World War II in a way that we don't. I mean, Russia's like what, a quarter to a third of the population we are. So imagine like close to 100 million Americans dying in a war. And you can imagine how significant that event is. So lots of talk about Ukraine's going to do whatever they can to terrorize the parades and so forth. And yeah, so that situation is going to just absolutely blow up in the next few days. And what happens after that's anybody's guess, but my guess is it's not going to go well for Ukraine, and therefore it will not have gone well for Joe Biden. And how this country's political leaders react to all this is going to be very, very peculiar, because Biden's been trying to run as like a war president. And to the extent that he has, well, first was the humiliating, embarrassing, disgraceful withdrawal from Afghanistan. Next might be this. And amazingly, they're still talking about like, we're going to help Taiwan defeat China, and we're going to liberate Taiwan from China. It's like, are you people out of your mind? You couldn't liberate Afghanistan. You didn't liberate Ukraine. You destroyed both of those countries. And now you're going to go to war with China. Oh yeah, this will be beautiful. This won't be a complete debacle. But the thing that worries me, I was listening to the Duran. They're talking about the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, and how he has this pattern of he goes overseas and sees how nice things are in foreign countries like China, and then he comes home and he kicks his subjects. And there was the pension reform that he couldn't get passed, and so then he just declared it, and now there's like riots in the streets of Paris and garbage is piling up everywhere. And that's like a thing that
Trudeau did that. Trudeau was like, "Oh,
yeah.
I admire that. They can just get things done so quickly." Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Trudeau's got that habit too. He hates his people and he's oppressing them. And France is doing the same. We're going to see, mark my words, the war against the American people is going to escalate even farther than it already has with Biden, because he sees his poll numbers. He sees the polls saying, I saw the poll came out this week, said Biden's losing both to Trump and DeSantis this week by 7 percentage points. And I mean, more than ever, you're going to see the regime just hate the American people. they're going to do everything they can to throw as many of us in jail as they can. Democrats in Lansing working on that too, by the way, folks. They got some new bills.
That's not even, I mean, that's at all levels, right?
Yeah.
Federal, state, and local.
Yep.
You know, we have stuff going on here, and it's like our opinion as residents of Plymouth Township do not matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're constantly, on one hand, there's a whole bunch of bills introduced in Lansing. It was either this past week or the week before to let criminals out early, mandating early parole, prohibiting judges from imposing minimum prison time, all these things they've put in already. Then we see stuff like this. This was a post Representative Jamie Thompson just posted on her Facebook page yesterday. This is from a budget memo. $415,000 for additional security for Supreme Court justices, including home security systems and protection while traveling.
That's for Michigan Supreme Court?
The Michigan Supreme Court, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
So the Michigan Supreme Court needs additional taxpayer-funded protection, presumably including armed guards, because, you know,
they were trying to pass something about guns at the Capitol, too. Did that pass?
I haven't seen anything new, not since Red Flag. I know there's a few more. I mean, the Red Flag bill, we say it's a red flag law, but it's like a series of them. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a couple of bills that there was some reconciliation votes on in the Senate, but it's been the same as it has been with all the others. The Republicans have been good. They've all been voting no. The Democrats have all been across the board disgraceful, even as there's just, you know, more and more of these gun-free zone mass killings. There's another one today, I think in Texas or something. Mm-hmm. In a mall that had, of course, policy is no weapons, anybody. And of course, the law-abiding people have to abide by that and be defenseless when they enter the mall. And weirdly enough, the mass shooters don't follow the mall's policies and actually bring firearms into malls and commit mass murders, and the victims are all defenseless.
Weird.
So yeah, almost like murderers seek out places where their victims can't defend themselves.
Imagine.
Yeah. It's amazing. You slap this is a gun-free zone on a location, and it somehow does not
like an invitation, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of stuff happening. Well, kind of a quiet week in Lansing, except for one terrible bill. So we should talk about Senate Bill 147. This was the bill that just passed this past week. We had to do 2 emails about it because there was a big kerfuffle about the vote itself. And I'll tell you, I got a lot of calls from Lansing right away about this. So I will show you guys the House Journal. You can see for yourself what happened. It was, and then we'll talk about what the bill actually was. But here's the bill, Senate Bill 147. And there was 2 roll call votes on the House on this. Why would that be? A bill to amend the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, and it was to amend it by making abortion a civil right, which would require, apparently, any employer offering health coverage to employees to also pay for abortions for all their employees. So there was these 2 votes on this, and this was my mistake because I should have seen this and caught it. And I think when I was going through the journal, I mistakenly put this was bill number 78, not roll call 78. And so I had to correct that. But more importantly, on the first vote, Ann Bolin voted yes. And then on the second vote, she flipped her vote to no. What apparently happened was it was just an accident, which they can happen, folks, especially because the Democrats and sometimes Republicans, when they were in the majority, they can change around the order that things are voted on. And if a lawmaker, if you see the videos of them on the House floor, a lot of the times they're just talking to their colleagues and trying to get people to sponsor their bills and, you know, they do all kinds of things when they're on the House floor. And when they vote, it takes typically sometimes they go fast, but often they'll take like 10 minutes or more, or there'll be some member who's busy yakking about something and they've got to go find that person and make them, you know, punch the switch at their desk. Anyway, so apparently it was an innocent mistake, and the Democrats granted them a revote, thank God, because that would have been low even for them if they didn't do that. So apparently it was just a mistake on Ann Bolin's part, so we don't hold that against her. And I did send out a corrective email. I did apologize. And I did not mitigate that apology talking about how she blocked all of our election integrity bills when she was in the House. So,
well, you just did.
Well, okay, but there's a much smaller audience here than in our email list. We get, our emails are read by thousands of people, and our show's not so much. So, and again, different medium, so I can point it out now. But I wasn't gonna give a non-apology where I, I tried to attack Ann Boland for any of the other things she might have done in the past. I did take the opportunity to point out that Crane's Detroit Business made the same mistake I did, and they never corrected it. So they have in their story 57 to 51 with one Republican supporting. That was in their story. They're right up about the thing. Although, I should say, it actually is a problem because they love when they have even one Republican vote for these things. They can call it bipartisan. That's what they love to do. It's like, oh, this is a bipartisan bill. Look, we had one Republican out of 53 in the House.
And corrected the vote. They can't say that. We're going to base are they going to base it on the incorrect vote? I mean, and say that? Have they?
That would be a little far fetched, but they could. I mean,
have you seen Have you seen that they have?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so
but I have seen plenty of times when there's just one person in the opposing party voting for something and they call it bipartisan.
Right. Is anybody on Rumble?
We got a few. Yeah. We don't have anyone in the chat. So, folks in the chat, feel free to say hi. We are going to take a look at the Rumble chats. If you guys have questions about things, we're happy to answer them. But other than that, it was a pretty light week. But I should explain also. I want to pull this bill up because this is one of those bills that was tricky because it doesn't say, the problem is often a bill doesn't actually say what it's really doing. And so like on Senate Bill 147 here, this is the bill as it was actually passed. And all it does is remove the exception for abortion and actually puts it in explicitly as saying, discriminating against abortions by not requiring their coverage is sex discrimination. They have the nerve to call killing children sex discrimination. Even sex selection abortions, of course. That's sexism. Mm-hmm. But theoretically, this bill could still be challenged on the grounds that an abortion is an elective procedure. The challenge would be that because of Proposal 3, which says that all abort. Well, let's look at what Proposal 3 says. How do I find it here? Probably not easily. Let me try. That's not going to give me a proposal number. Let's see. I'll just try the old Google search and see if I can find the actual text of Proposal 3. I mean, it will be in the Michigan Constitution. I can do that too. Let's just try that. I can find the text of it here. Constitution. Let's see if this version. Yeah. Okay. Revised February 2023. And this will be one of the last articles. So let's see what it says here. Here we go. All right. So here's what they put in the Constitution. Fundamental right to reproductive freedom, which entails the right to make decisions and effectuate decisions about all matters relating to pregnancy, including anything else, but not limited to all this other stuff, including sterilization, and every individual, which includes children. So children can also have their sex mutilated. That's a right. And therefore, the argument I get, well, it doesn't make it healthcare though. Well, anyway, point being, it's a court case that might go before the Michigan Supreme Court. Maybe that's why they want to spend another $500,000 of taxpayer money, even though overwhelmingly political terrorism is committed by their people, not ours, but that's what they're going for. So it's all part of building the narrative. Of course, a big part of that too was the Proud Boys were convicted of seditious conspiracy.
Oh my God, yeah.
This week, or some of them were. Which again, immensely damaging to the Constitution, that this is the first time ever a seditious conspiracy, which was intended to mean like an armed insurrection, was prosecuted as such, and including for one guy who wasn't even at the Capitol on January 6th. And let me see if I can find the comment from one of the jurors. This is how you can tell this is a lynching jury. One of the things about lynch mobs is it's not just the violence and the murder, it's also the bragging about it. That's a big part of it. The lynch mob postcards they used to do back in the days. These jurors go right out and just start talking to the media immediately. Like they're absolutely shameless. So yeah, here's what one of the jurors went right out to the media and said. what they said, what they had to say prior to January 6th, and the fact that they wanted to do so much in secret. That's why the government couldn't present too much of the evidence. The government couldn't present too much evidence that they had already deleted because it was unrecoverable. So based on the evidence that we didn't see, and we're just speculating about, we convicted them. I mean, this is a juror just bragging.
That's what we are.
Yep. So there you go. On the second day, we pretty much established guilty verdicts on the conspiracy. So there you go. Guy didn't even have a problem putting his name out in public. So that's how shameless they are. Here's Julie Kelly's take on it.
Yeah.
Not only did they quickly convict, this juror thought deleted messages were evidence of guilt.
Her reporting has been spot on for.
Yeah, Julie Kelly is the person who's involved for all things related to the January 6th witch hunts. Yeah, so Julie Kelly then goes on to say, they thought the deleted messages that the jury didn't see was evidence of guilt, except the messages were probably removed by DOJ due to unknown number of FBI informants and other conspiracy tools, unidentified and or uncharged participants in numerous chats. So there you go. So apparently they're able to convict them based on evidence that the government could not admit. Mark Ashley Price says, for anyone who have local elections this year, such as city council, school board, please be a candidate for local office this year. Yeah, absolutely. Be one or find one.
The deadline has passed.
For some of them.
For some of them. So make sure you know if it has or not, because the deadline in City of Plymouth and some other ones was April 25th for the candidates to file. But there is another deadline in July or June for cities that don't hold primaries. So they have a later deadline because they, no matter how many people file, they never have a primary. They just have a general election.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different for all kinds of different municipalities. They have different term lengths. They have different structures. Some counties have executives, some don't. Some have mayors, some don't. It's all over the place, and you have to know what the rules are in your own community.
That's why for our county, for Wayne 6th, our county committee, we have all that information like organized, so we know, right? In our data structure. Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone should know what it is for your community. For nonpartisan races, as you said, typically there's no primary, therefore the deadline's later. Like for school board races,
that depends. Plymouth is nonpartisan, but they do. If there was 9 people that filed, they would have had a primary, and then 8 would have went on to the general election.
What?
Mm-hmm.
They'd have a primary for 9.
Yeah,
8 people.
Get 9 to 8.
That's strange. Are your seats at large, or is that by district? You guys have wards or something, or no?
No, it's at large in the city. Yeah, there's only 4 precincts. It's not for the township. Township's not till 24, but yeah.
Okay.
So so it is. Yeah, it depends on your municipality, jurisdiction, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah. I saw there's a lot of chatter going on with the state party, and there's been these anonymous emails going around basically just attacking Christina, which I have a problem with it being done anonymously. I was going to say, if you want to throw shade at the GOP or any other particular politician, show yourself. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, but the big question was, this is the big challenge for this is the anonymous shit poster was saying, sending these emails out to thousands of people. This is the first big challenge for the Michigan GOP was this election that was this past Tuesday. And how is the GOP, how many poll challengers have they recruited and blah, 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 blah. And like in my county, there was almost no elections last Tuesday, almost none. There was like a few tax millages and that was it. And it was for like less than 10% of the population was in any jurisdiction that had an election this past Tuesday. So I wouldn't blame the GOP for not organizing on the local off-year election. In fact, even if there was like some local elections that were significant, the state party's job is the 2024 elections. The statewide elections. Those are the ones they're supposed to be worried about. They're not supposed to be micromanaging their county parties or anything like that. So very strange. But then there was an email from the state party saying, we want tell us about how your local election mobilization went. Or kind of looking like, what for? We did an email blast and told people to vote. That was about it. Mm-hmm. But, yep. So all very strange and all very, I mean, I think overall, the number one thing people need to be focusing on right now is, are you knocking on doors yet? I mean, the weather was so gorgeous today. Perfect day for going out knocking on doors. We're working on putting together materials in our county where we can start, you know, showing people, here's how your politicians voted. And I've been making the point on our website over and over and over again that we're keeping up to date on all the things that the legislature does. So if you go to Operation Watchdog on our website here, you just click the link and it takes you to this page here. And we've got all the bills. There will be some more tools for making these a little bit more searchable. So you can just punch in a bill number and it'll go right to the bill. But for all of these lawmakers, you pick any of them here. Let me just pick on Mallory McMorrow. I mean, look at this list of bills that she's introduced. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on again. And then there's all the votes too. They're all in there, every single vote. So, you know, you can pick whatever might be most effective for your community. I assure you folks, there's not a lawmaker in Lansing that looks good with these dossiers, although Republicans look considerably better. But all of these things are things that voters would look at this and be like, is that what they're doing in Lansing? I had no idea. Because they don't, folks. They don't know who their state reps are. They don't know who their state senators are. And that's the way the politicians like it.
People don't know. People don't even know what's going on in their own, like I said, in the cities and the townships or the county commission. Like, everyone's all worried about Biden, which, I mean, he is a nut job, but, you know, you got to pay attention. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. In our county, the biggest, well, there's a couple of them, but one of the biggest issues is there's this outfit called Supreme Felons. Mm-hmm. that are getting grant money from our county commissioners to take felons on parole and put them in children's schools. And yeah, it's a little out there. So, and the Washtenaw County Democrats, the Washtenaw County Commission's also doing a reparations study. That was another story. Did you see that? San Francisco, or was it the city or the county that passed? Yeah, here we go. California panel approves reparations proposal of up to $1.2 million each for Black residents. Activists demand more than $200 million, and there's no actual money for it.
$200 million for what? Per person?
They say it was nowhere near enough. It called for direct cash payments. I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, they're not going to get this money. But what this will be done is this will be used as a vehicle to drive all kinds of racist legislation down the pike. You know, like say, we really owe Black people $200 million, but what we'll do instead is we'll give them preferential treatment in hiring. That kind of stuff. That's what it'll be. That's what it will be used to do ultimately. But yeah, it's coming. It's coming here, folks. If you think it's not going to happen, they have the same composition as we do in the legislature, Democrats. Yeah, Tim Coon says $200 million per person. Hey, why not? Why not? You know. How's that Lyle Lovett song go? If I had a boat, go out on the ocean.
Stop singing.
And if I had a pony, I'd put him on my boat. Yeah, $200 million a person. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, these are the things, folks. We're going to probably be talking about what's this? It's in Detroit. Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to do. The problem with Detroit is they have no money, and what are they going to do?
Yeah, but there's people looking to reinvigorate.
You know, that was my complaints about Rick Snyder when he was governor. Was he was constantly pouring subsidies into Detroit all the time? Like that was going to be his thing. I'm going to bring back Detroit. And it was like, dude, Detroit doesn't want to be brought back. Detroit wants to. Well, it's just never ending cycle.
Huge. I mean, Detroit is Boston, San Francisco, and Manhattan. All the landmass, right, of all three of those cities, would fit inside the outline of Detroit, the city of Detroit. Yeah, and we have what 800,000 people now, only.
Yeah, but in terms of the population, the jobs, the per capita GDP.
I mean, they've fixed downtown, they fixed midtown, but I mean, you can't. The neighborhoods, it's massive. It's huge.
Yeah, I used to have a friend that moved to Detroit because he wanted to. He was one of these hippie liberal types that thought, well, let's go into Detroit and try to clean the place up and da 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 da. And plus, rent's really cheap there. Mm-hmm. So I went to visit him like shortly after he moved there, and there's only 2 houses on his block because the rest had all been burned down. And in his yard, we would walk around into the backyard, and it was you realized you were stepping on grass, but there was concrete under it. And I was like, this used to be an alleyway. This has all been just completely rewilded. And then you see some houses that have just recently been burned and haven't been demolished yet, but it was unreal. Absolutely unreal.
I did a cleanup with Scott Pressler.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, whenever he came to town, I can't remember. Yeah, but it was a couple houses down in Detroit. It was crazy what we found inside there. They were unsafe structures too, unsafe structures, and just people looked like they had recently maybe vacated them, and it was sad. Yeah,
I mean, Detroit's politically doomed because they're going to still elect Democrats time after time after time after time, and they're going to get more of the same. Because the Democrats just get crazier and crazier and crazier. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. Mm. So, I mean, I say get all the votes you can everywhere you can, but there's more voters to be recaptured in Oakland County and Macomb County and Washtenaw County even than there is in Detroit. And I should say parts of Wayne County too. Plymouth, Canton.
Western Wayne, yay.
Yeah. Well, they were Republican till not too long ago.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Canton fell in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real shame. Yeah, I worked on Jeff Noble's campaign when he won. That House seat was like Plymouth, Canton, and Northville, and it was close, but it was a very tough race. And the Democrats spent millions of dollars to defeat him in the following term. And unfortunately, one of the things, Jeff had bad knees; he couldn't really knock on doors very much, and that just makes it very hard for a politician. Which is why I going back to Mark's comment. Maybe you're not the right person to run for office, but you can find the right person to run for office. And most often, those are the people that aren't inclined to run until someone really asks them to. So, yep. And it all comes back to the same thing, folks, knocking on doors, getting that done. So, I know I've showed this before, but I will show it once again. Oh my God, I've got so many windows open. I'm not sure where my last window went. Oh boy, maybe I closed it. I'll pull up the grassroots leadership tools, and you can see we've got information on all the voters. In fact, what I'll do instead is I'll pull up the what an actual spreadsheet looks like, because that's the most important thing, is the data you can get from us, which you can do anything you want with. I was just looking at this other system called i316 to not make it easy for you just to get the dang data, that you could do whatever you want with it. But at Rescue Michigan, we give you a nice, easy link. In fact, I think I will show it on the screen, actually, our little grassroots leadership tools page. Because I'll tell you, it doesn't need a whole 90 minutes of training to figure out. Hold on. Gotta type and not think at the same time. Okay, here we are. I think. Yeah, let me pull the screen up. We make it really easy for you to actually get access to your voter data. So I'm logged in here and I go down to my voter lists page. I click on that and boom, you can get the whole voter file. If you're not sure what the columns mean, we give you this nice, easy key. I've seen some other platforms don't really explain to you what the numbers on the page mean. We actually tell you what they mean so you can interpret them. And then there's lots of nice, easy, pre-made selections for things you might want for when you're knocking on doors. A nice list of the most likely Republicans and the most likely activists and donors, the most likely Republican primary voters. If you got a race where you got to beat a rhino in, you can just use those lists. And the likely general election voters that don't include the most hardcore Democrats. So if you're handing out literature, building a narrative, talking about all the crazy stuff the Democrats in Lansing are doing, it'll somewhat reduce your chances of getting yelled at by a Democrat. But for each one of those, you get a nice, easy spreadsheet you can download. You can view it on the screen. You can customize the order of the streets to be whatever works good for walk-in. You see I got these nice things put down in here. Look, this person is a Trump supporter, a GOP precinct delegate. Phone numbers are on there, how conservative the voter is, which elections they voted in, all that stuff is readily available. And if you get the voter files, the full data set's a lot more in depth than that. It's got everything from positions on gun rights and positions on abortion to income to how likely they're to be a Republican, all kinds of interesting data that people can put to use. And that's the name of the game, folks, is getting out there. What else is going to talk about this week? Oh, Ron DeSantis is going to run, it looks like. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, they said he's going to announce this month. That's what I heard.
This month. So I think at some point we need to do a show where we do like a pros and cons of Trump and DeSantis. And I might have to get some Trump supporters on the show because I won't do a very good job. I will say, I mean, I was very impressed with that interview you did with Tucker, talking about nuclear war, talking about Russia and Ukraine in a pragmatic way. And that's all wonderful. But like DeSantis has this, he's got this, you might call it a Trump card, which is he actually follows through on his promises. That's something that Trump had a hard time with.
Yeah, so. DeSantis, though, I mean, he's talked tough with Disney, but I think he backed off on a lot of that stuff either. Didn't follow through with it.
Yeah, we might have to do a deep dive about that because I've heard conflicting things about that too.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Oh, and speaking of presidential candidates, Vivek was in town this past weekend. I didn't go to the events. I meant to go to one today, but I couldn't get to it.
It was like event overload of him. That's kind of, anyway.
Yeah, folks in chat, let me know if any of you went to those because I'd be curious if there's any video or anything on there. We could take a look at that. He was on, I guess he did like a Fox and Friends show from Huron Valley Guns.
Yeah, from Huron Valley Guns. Yeah.
That's cool. I wonder what his angle is though. I don't get it. I don't understand.
Well, was it Barnes or was it Jesse Kelly? Somebody was saying, I don't remember now, that if you pay attention to what he said, but we talked about this last week, didn't we? Where he's maybe was just put in there to badmouth DeSantis, but then you said you thought you heard him badmouthing Trump too as well.
Yeah. Well, it was he was on Glenn Greenwald's show a couple months ago, and he did a whole interview, and yeah, it was a lot of like, I'm like Trump but better. I'm like more what you like, and that maybe that's not an attack on Trump. Maybe that's I don't know what it is exactly. That's very peculiar, and I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is. Tim Kuhn says Trump cannot choose good cab people. Yeah, he can pick them, can he? John Bolton.
Cabinet. He can't choose good anything.
I thought you meant cab drivers.
I hire the best people and make the best phone calls. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man. It sucks. It sucks. Because he's just not the same person. I don't care what anybody says. He's not the same guy as he was in 2015.
Yeah. I mean, I think, he's getting weighed down by these, by all these charges and lawsuits.
I mean,
and
that's,
forth.
yeah.
And
I mean, how much can one person take too, right? You got to have some, yeah.
And they're meritless, they're unfair, and he's getting a lynching judge and a lynching jury, and that's a terrible thing. Mm-hmm. But that's not going to help him. It's not going to help him beat Biden or Kamala or whoever it's going to end up being.
Yeah. Michelle Obama.
We'll see. I still don't think she's going to run.
She's not. Well, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. There's been some bad news for Hunter Biden. Apparently, there is an investigation into that laptop finally, but somehow I'm not holding my breath.
Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen.
Yeah, that's most likely true. Amazing, isn't it? That's the double standard. Our side, you can do nothing and be falsely charged and falsely convicted and serve hard time. And if you're the Democrats, you can get away with it. You can be caught red-handed. You'll still get away with it.
Yep. Anybody in Rumble chatting?
Huh?
Anybody in the Rumble?
I do not see people in Rumble chatting, but there's some people in Rumble watching. So we didn't do the email today. Maybe that has something to do with it. So we didn't do a show reminder.
Oh, maybe they didn't think,
Yeah. I don't know. And Rumble's always strange too. Rumble's not like YouTube. I mean, in the good sense, they don't censor things. There is that, but their algorithm is different, and it doesn't just they don't have quite the technology that YouTube does. And I think if you don't know to tune in, at the appointed time, it doesn't like just splash things on your feed. Like when I go to just Rumble, even when I'm logged in, it doesn't just give me like, here's Barnes, here's Glenn Greenwald, here's Nick Rekieta. It gives me like slap fighting and stuff like that. Stuff I'm never going to click on. Okay. So yeah, I think their algorithm needs some work. Maybe they'll get some AI involved in that one of these days. Who knows? Maybe they'll merge with Twitter. Huh?
Who, Rumble?
Yeah.
Did you watch No BS News on Thursday?
No, what's No BS News?
Charlie LaDuff, No Bullshit News.
Okay.
Power. Did you read an article about Nestle and Alana McGuire?
Yeah, I did hear about that. Let's look into that more, though, because I didn't really follow up. I've been hearing a lot about this. Let's see here. I saw there was
they
this.
Were staying at a resort in Turks and Caicos. It was $8,600 a night for the penthouse.
That's where the donor put Nestle.
Paid for by some law firm or some.
Yeah. I got an email from someone that was like the Detroit News, like.
Lawless,
yep. They have an inbox thing. Yeah, this is kind of a big deal.
Yep.
Kind of a big deal. Donald Trump is coming to Oakland County's Lincoln Day dinner.
June 23rd is the date.
Something like that. Is it? I thought I kind of remembered it being the 25th, but I could be wrong.
Something like that. Tickets aren't on sale yet, but soon. So we don't know ticket prices. I'm sure. Well, it's a big fundraiser, so I'm sure it'll be.
I wonder what it's going to be.
Thanks, Dan. I mean, Lawless.
Huh?
I called him Dan. I never call him Dan. I'm like, thanks, Lawless. I had to correct myself.
Is the 25th. Tim Kuhn asked where. Go to oaklandgop.com. It'll be on there. It's sooner or later. It'll be on there.
Yeah.
But if I was them, I'd probably be charging like $500 a seat or more.
Yeah.
Or do some kind of like enormously expensive private reception with Trump, something like that. We have our Lincoln Day dinners coming up on May 18th in Washtenaw County. We've got David Barton from Wall Builders coming. So we have our regular seat, and then we have a VIP seat where you get a cocktail reception with David Barton and a photo earlier, and you get some, one-to-one time with him, that kind of stuff.
All right. Save the date, 25th.
Tickets go on sale May 11th. There you go.
And no
location not yet announced.
No location yet, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'll be someplace nice, I'm sure. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, this let me find this Charlie LaDuff story. And this will pull this up here. So this is the paywall. Hold on, let me see if I can get around it.
Yeah, what's that website?
Well, I've got I was looking at the free press story, but screw them. So I got this is from WJR. Charlie Duff posted a piece claiming Traversy-based law firm paid for Nestle's trip to the Caribbean. She later wrote on Twitter she does not have family vacations paid for by others. The Duff told 760 law firm Kelly Newman, who had dealings with Nestle, paid $8,600 a day to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, confirmed by hotel staff. Where is the legislature? Controlled by the Democrats. That's where. And
yeah, she did a tweet, and then she had some shade. Like, watch his show. Like, he goes live every Thursday.
Yeah.
And Monday noon, Thursday at 6. So yeah, you can replay. He does Facebook Live or YouTube.
Yeah, and Nestle's got these weasel words here.
Well, it's like she's throwing shade on Whitmer, is what he implied on Thursday evening.
Yeah, maybe.
Because especially with that one, we also do not vacation with those who do business with or have cases against the state of Michigan. What the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
$25,000 for meet and greet VIP.
Yeah, there you go. $25,000, folks. That's not surprising, to be honest with you. Serena Kraft says, thumbs up to Wall Builders. Yes, David Barton from Wall Builders is coming to Washtenaw County Thursday, May 18th for our Lincoln Day dinner. And you should get your tickets while you still can, folks, because they are almost sold out. So if you go to WashtenaWrepublicans.org.
So happy for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Lincoln Day fundraising dinner is coming up a week from Thursday. And we have 200 seats capacity, and I think we're down to like 35 seats are left. So in the last couple of weeks, we've sold almost all of them. So it'll be super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Wall Builders. Yeah, and we got a sponsor who's sponsoring a bunch of youth tables. So a lot of high school and college, because David Barton's a historian. Like he has like the world's largest collection of American history documents. And so he's going to give a history lecture for all the high school and college students that are coming.
What about the old farts like us? We need it too.
Yeah, you get one too. And we've got a silent auction. I got this rare book on the history of the U.S. Senate that was printed by the government. That's autographed by a U.S. senator. That'll be in our silent auction. All kinds of cool stuff for auction. 6-day vacation in Petoskey. We've got Tigers tickets. All kinds of neat stuff that we're auctioning too. So it's going to be a good fundraiser. So looking forward to that.
Lawless, did you go to Vivek? How was it?
Hey, good question. That's to you, Dan. What else do we got in the meantime? There are some other things that I know are in the news this week, but it all goes by so fast. It's insane. Do you want to talk about the racetrack thing or no? It's kind of a local issue, but still. Okay. No, you've been fighting that. Well, let us know, Dan, if you were at the Vivek Ramaswamy events. Let us know how that went.
Or anyone for that matter, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean,
because he's part of the committee.
Yeah. I mean, we could call it a stream. We've been going for most of an hour.
Yeah. I feel like I'm sorry, guys, if we're boring. Yeah. I was boring. Well, I know I was boring. I mean, maybe I'm always boring. But.
I hate to say fixated on what's going on in Ukraine because the implications are so broad. They're so dire. You know, we've spent something like $100 million on this. The lives that have been lost in this are absolutely catastrophic. I mean, we've destroyed the country, and it was a war that we provoked, and it was a war that, you know, these politicians are so absolutely nauseating, saying that they're doing all this because they support Ukraine. They've destroyed Ukraine. That's what they did, because they wanted to destroy Russia that badly. So they thought nothing about crossing all the red lines, thought nothing about putting a NATO army inside Ukraine at Russia's borders, and thought Russia would buckle, and they didn't. Tim Kuhn says Vivek is coming up strong. Okay, well, we shall see.
I've enjoyed his interviews over the last, year or two, and he wrote that book Woke Inc., right? And then one other one.
I would just repeat my caution, folks. When people run for high office that have never served in low office, you don't have a record, and they can say whatever they want. It's easy to say what's popular. It's what Trump did.
Well, who did that? Trump.
Yeah.
But he's been a public figure. I mean, he's had opinions, but I mean,
but being a public figure and being an elected official facing a re-election is a different thing. You know, lots of people talk the moon and stars when they're running for office about what great patriots they are. Then they get to office and sell out. Happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Happens all the time.
2 books. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the second one.
Yeah. But again, you know, that's audience building. I mean,
Oh, okay. Who else what's her face is writing a book too? Carrie Lake. I mean, everyone's got a book deal.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we talked about this last week. I got Perry Johnson's book.
Oh, I didn't know he had a book.
No, it hasn't published yet, but he sent copies to all the county chairs. And it was like basically a yeah.
I still had it here from
it had lots of these like my 2 cents sidebars. It was all like Reaganomics and stuff like that. It was literally cut and paste Reaganomics, which is certainly what the American people are thirsting for. You know, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about this cultural stuff or the destruction of the rule of law or, you know, nuclear annihilation because the United States is provoking a nuclear war with Russia. No, we want to talk about the supply side economic stuff. That's what's real exciting.
Oh, Nation of Victims.
Oh, okay.
The other book by Vivek, Nation of Victims. Yeah, that victim mentality, right?
Cool. Tim Kuhn says Vivek is shooting for 2028. Could be. We'll see. It's an open question. What might happen with Trump this year? It's very, very hard to predict. I just realized I've had this wall builders thumbs up chat sitting there this whole time. Yeah, I like the thumbs up. Yeah, well, I guess that's it for this week, folks. Other than that, I mean, it's again, week to week, the number one question is how many doors you're knocking on, and we're gonna just do as much as we can to give you more materials. I'm going to be getting us some more.
Should we have a contest?
Huh?
Should we have a contest?
For what?
Door knocking.
Maybe there'd be no easy way. Well, there'd be no way to
verify.
There'd be no easy way to count it or verify anything. Yeah, but we could do what we could do is. I challenged all you guys is send me your door-to-door pieces. We did a fun segment a while ago looking at campaign pieces and critiquing them. We could do that again for your door-to-door pieces. I know I'm going to have a door-to-door piece done by next week, and we can take a look at that and see what other people come up with. If you have anything, send it to us, and we can go from there. But and I promise I'll be nice. I'll be fair. I'm not gonna red pen everything or criticize this or that. But you know, it's important when this is a tough thing. It really is when you're knocking on doors and you give somebody something that has a very limited number of words that you can put onto a page. How do you make it as effective as it can be? Because you know, everybody is different.
This is an odd year. I mean, what should we be doing? Informing them or trying to hear what they have to say, or both?
I think the main thing to convey to voters, because they're not getting it from the mass media, is this is how extreme the Democrats are. This is what they've done in their first 100 days. Look at what they've passed. Look at what bills they've introduced. You know, this is not building consensus. This is radical extremism. And that's the narrative that needs to be started now, because it comes much too late when you start in September of next year and everyone's thinking about the presidential race. The presidential race just drowns everything else out.
I know.
Yeah, that would be helpful. A sample page. Yeah, well, I'll definitely include a sample. But, you know, when I did some of the campaign materials we used in the last cycle, you know, some people said they didn't like this or that about them. Okay, well, we'll make your own.
Don did one in Northville. Yeah, remember?
Cool.
Good.
Yeah, I've got a whole file of like various campaign pieces too. We could grade some of those. I like to save those. I've got a lot from Democrats, a lot from Republicans, so we could take a look at those. But yeah, I mean, the idea typically is, you know, it should be kind of short. I mean, it doesn't have to be a postcard, but it shouldn't be a booklet. It needs to be like
8.5 by 11, like a flyer, or no?
Yeah, you could do even 11 by 17, folded in half, so it's like four sides of an 8.5 by 11, basically. But that's about as big as you want to get, and you know, generally have big text, not too many words, and just hit on the best points you can make, and the things that are going to make the most voters angry. I mean, that's the other thing too. Not the thing that's most important to you, the thing that's going to make the most voters angry. So, yeah. that is the art of it, is making something that's going to surprise people and make them think that they're missing the story, and then giving them some place to go and to connect to people that have this information. So prominently put, you know, your information on it, or your group's information on it, or your GOP's information on it, or whatever, so you can give people somewhere to connect to. Hey, I got this thing. I didn't know about any of this. What are you guys doing? Well, we're recruiting more people to knock on doors. That's what we're doing. So, yeah. All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll call it a stream. It's been another crazy week. I'm just glad we're getting close to the Lincoln Day. That's been a very big project for us, but we've got almost all of our tickets sold, and it's going to be really exciting. So, till next time, folks.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we're going to talk about tonight? All righty. Well, thanks everybody for all you guys do for liberty. Until next time, peace out.